Some stories begin with a bang. This one began with a silence so heavy it pressed on every heart in the courtroom. A silence that would soon be shattered by truth, courage, and a secret no one saw coming. It was a gray morning in the city courthouse. Rain streaked the tall windows, and the air inside was thick with tension. The gallery was packed. Reporters with notepads, activists with signs, neighbors and strangers, drawn by the promise of drama and justice. At the front, the judge sat high on the bench, her face unreadable, her gavel resting quietly at her side. On the witness stand sat Officer Brian Keller, his uniform crisp, his jaw set. He was a veteran of the force, known for his confidence in his record. Today, he was the prosecution's star witness. Across the room, at the defense table, sat a black woman in her early 30s. Her name was Maya Carter. She wore a simple navy suit, her hair pulled back, her posture straight. She looked calm, almost serene, her eyes steady as she watched the proceedings. At her side sat her attorney, a sharp-eyed woman named Lisa Tran. The prosecutor rose, voice ringing out. "Officer Keller, please tell the court what happened on the night of March 14th. Keller nodded, his voice smooth and practiced. "I responded to a call about a disturbance at the corner of 8th and Main. When I arrived, I saw the defendant, Ms. Carter, arguing with another woman. Primera a proa. Chet identified myself and asked her to step aside. She refused, became aggressive, and when I tried to detain her, she resisted arrest. I was forced to subdue her for the safety of everyone present." He glanced at the jury, his expression grave. She was combative, disrespectful, and a threat to public order. The prosecutor nodded, satisfied. "No further questions." Lisa Tran stood, her heels clicking on the tile. "Officer Keller, did you have your body camera on that night?" Keller hesitated, just a fraction. "No, it was malfunctioning." Lisa raised an eyebrow. "And the other officers? They arrived after I'd already detained Ms. Carter." Lisa nodded, jotting a note. "No further questions at this time, Your Honor." The judge nodded, her eyes flicking from Keller to Maya. "Ms. Carter, you may step forward." Maya stood, her movements controlled, her face calm. She took the stand, her hands folded in her lap. The prosecutor began. "Ms. Carter, do you deny resisting arrest?" Maya's voice was quiet but clear. "I do. I was trying to help a woman who was being harassed. Officer Keller arrived, and I tried to explain. He didn't listen. Agrabade twisted my arm and threw me to the ground. I never fought back." The prosecutor smirked. "So, you're saying Officer Keller lied?" Maya met his gaze. "I'm saying he's mistaken, or he's not telling the truth." A murmur rippled through the gallery. The judge banged her gavel. "Order. Order." Lisa Tran stood. "Your Honor, we will present evidence and witnesses to support Miss Carter's account." The judge nodded. "Proceed." As Maya returned to her seat, the tension in the room grew. The jury watched her closely, some with sympathy, others with skepticism. The reporters scribbled furiously, sensing a story, but no one, not the judge, not the jury, not even Lisa, knew the truth about Maya Carter. No one knew about the years she'd spent in the shadows, the battles she'd fought, the secrets she carried. And as the rain beat harder against the windows, the first cracks began to show in Officer Keller's story. The trial was just beginning. The courtroom buzzed with whispers as Maya Carter returned to her seat. The judge called for a short recess, and the gallery erupted in speculation. Some believed Officer Keller's version without question. He was, after all, a decorated cop with years of service. Others eyed Maya with curiosity, sensing there was more to her than met the eye. Maya sat quietly, her hands folded, her breathing slow and steady. Lisa Tran leaned in, her voice low. "You did great. Just keep calm. We're going to get through this." Maya nodded, her eyes never leaving the jury box. She had faced worse than this, much worse. But the weight of the moment pressed on her chest. She could feel the eyes on her, the doubt, the judgment. She had learned long ago that sometimes the world saw only what it wanted to see. As the recess continued, the prosecutor and Officer Keller huddled at the front of the room, reviewing notes. Keller's confidence was unshaken. He had testified in dozens of cases, and his word had always been enough. He glanced at Maya, a flicker of something contempt, or perhaps uncertainty passing over his face. Outside the courtroom, the city was divided. News vans lined the street, their cameras trained on the courthouse steps. Protesters held signs, some demanding justice for Maya, others supporting the police. Social media buzzed with hashtags and hot takes, each side certain of its own truth. But few knew Maya's real story. She had grown up in a tough neighborhood, the daughter of a single mother who worked 2 jobs to keep food on the table. Maya had learned early to fight for herself and for those who couldn't fight for themselves. She excelled in school, joined the Navy at 18, and quickly rose through the ranks. Her discipline, intelligence, and courage caught the attention of her superiors, and she was recruited into the SEALs, a rare honor for anyone, and almost unheard of for a black woman. Maya's years as a SEAL were marked by hardship and heroism. She had led missions in hostile territory, saved lives, and lost friends. She had learned to keep her emotions in check, to trust her instincts, and to never, ever give up. But she had also learned the cost of silence, the pain of being overlooked, underestimated, or dismissed. When she left the service, Maya hoped for a quieter life. She moved to the city, found work as a security consultant, and tried to blend in. But trouble had a way of finding her. The night of her arrest, she had been walking home when she saw a woman being harassed by a group of men. Maya intervened, using her training to defuse the situation. But when Officer Keller arrived, he saw only a black woman in the middle of a confrontation. He didn't listen to her explanation. He didn't ask questions. Who's acted? Now, as Maya sat in the courtroom, she wondered if the truth would ever come out. She trusted Lisa, but she knew the odds were against her. The system was built to protect its own. Lisa, meanwhile, was working tirelessly behind the scenes. She had subpoenaed security footage from nearby businesses, tracked down witnesses, and dug into Officer Keller's record. She had found hints of past complaints, excessive force, questionable testimony, but nothing that had ever stuck. As the recess ended, the judge called the court to order. The prosecutor called his next witness a woman who had been at the scene that night. She testified that she had seen Maya arguing loudly and that Officer Keller seemed to be in control. Lisa cross-examined her, gently but firmly. Did you see Miss Carter strike anyone? Did you see her resist arrest? The woman hesitated. No, but it all happened so fast. Lisa nodded, making a note. No further questions. The judge called for a lunch break. As the courtroom emptied, Lisa turned to Maya. We're making progress. The jury is starting to see the holes in their story. Maya nodded, her face calm but her mind racing. She thought of her SEAL training, of the missions where everything depended on patience, on waiting for the right moment to act. She would wait. She would endure, and when the time came, she would tell her story. But for now, the tension in the courtroom was rising. The city was watching, and the truth was still waiting to be revealed. After lunch, the courtroom filled again, the tension thicker than before. The judge called the court to order, and Lisa Tran stood, her eyes sharp and focused. Your Honor, the defense calls Officer Keller for cross-examination. Keller took the stand, his posture rigid, his eyes flicking to the jury. Lisa approached, her voice calm but relentless. Officer Keller, you testified that your body camera was malfunctioning the night of Miss Carter's arrest. Is that correct? Keller nodded. Yes, ma'am. Lisa held up a report. Yet, according to the department's maintenance logs, your camera was checked and found to be in working order the day before and the day after the incident. Can you explain that? Keller's jaw tightened. It must have malfunctioned during the shift. These things happen. Lisa nodded, not missing a beat. And you said Miss Carter was combative. Did you file a use of force report? Keller hesitated. Yes, I did. Lisa flipped through a folder. The report says you used a standard takedown because Miss Carter was resisting, but the medical records show she had bruises on her wrists and a sprained shoulder. Isn't that more consistent with excessive force? Keller's face reddened. She was resisting. I did what I had to do. Lisa's voice was gentle but firm. Did you ever ask Miss Carter what happened before you arrived? Keller shook his head. There was no time. The situation was escalating. Lisa paused, letting the silence hang. The jury watched, some leaning forward, others glancing at Maya. "Officer Keller, are you aware that Miss Carter is a decorated Navy veteran?" Keller blinked, caught off guard. "No, I wasn't." Lisa smiled slightly. "Did you know she served as a Navy SEAL?" A ripple of shock ran through the courtroom. The jurors exchanged glances. The gallery buzzed with whispers. Maya sat still, her face calm, her eyes steady. Keller stammered. "No, I didn't know that." Lisa nodded. "So you assumed, based on what you saw, that Miss Carter was the aggressor?" Keller's voice was defensive. "I responded to what I saw." Lisa turned to the judge. "Your Honor, I'd like to introduce new evidence security footage from a nearby store that captured the incident." The judge nodded. "Procede." The footage played on a screen for the court. It showed Maya stepping between a woman and a group of men, her posture protective but nonviolent. Officer Keller arrived, grabbed Maya without warning, and forced her to the ground. The woman Maya had helped tried to intervene, but was pushed aside. The jury watched in silence. The prosecutor's face fell. Keller stared at the screen, his confidence crumbling. Lisa let the footage play, then turned to the jury. "Does this look like a woman resisting arrest? Or a woman trying to help?" The judge called for order as the gallery erupted in murmurs. Lisa finished her cross-examination, her voice steady. "No further questions." Keller stepped down, his face pale, his hands shaking. Maya's lawyer had struck the first blow. The jury's attention had shifted. The truth was beginning to surface. But as the court adjourned for the day, Lisa leaned over to Maya, her voice low. "We're not done yet. Tomorrow, we call our next witness." Maya nodded, her heart pounding. She had faced danger before, but never like this. Still, she was ready. The city was watching. The stakes were higher than ever, and the real story was just beginning to unfold. The next morning, the courthouse was even more crowded. News of the security footage had spread overnight, and the city was abuzz with speculation. Reporters jostled for position outside, and the gallery was packed with faces, some hopeful, some angry, all waiting for the next revelation. Maya arrived early, her head held high. She wore her Navy SEAL pin on her lapel, a quiet statement of pride and resilience. Lisa Tran greeted her with a reassuring smile. "Today's the day, Maya. We're going to show them who you really are." The judge called the court to order. The prosecutor looked tense, his case shaken by the previous day's evidence. Officer Keller sat at the prosecution table, his confidence gone, his eyes darting nervously. Lisa stood. "Your Honor, the defense calls Dr. Angela Brooks to the stand." Dr. Brooks, a trauma specialist, testified about Maya's injuries. The pattern of bruising and the sprained shoulder are consistent with someone being forcibly restrained, not with someone resisting arrest. In fact, Ms. Carter's medical records showed no defensive wounds, no bruises on her knuckles. She did not fight back. The prosecutor tried to challenge her, but Dr. Brooks was unshakable. "I have treated hundreds of assault victims. Ms. Carter's injuries are consistent with excessive force, not aggression." Next, Lisa called the woman Maya had tried to help that night, Jasmine Lee. Jasmine's voice trembled as she recounted the events. "I was being harassed. Maya stepped in to protect me. She didn't yell, she didn't hit anyone. She just stood between me and those men. When the officer arrived, he didn't ask what happened. He just grabbed her." The jury listened intently. Some jurors took notes, others watched Maya with new respect. Lisa's final witness was a surprise. Chief Petty Officer Marcus Hill, Maya's former SEAL teammate. He took the stand in full-dressed uniform, his medals gleaming. "Miss Carter's one of the bravest, most disciplined people I've ever served with," he said. "She's trained to de-escalate conflict, to protect the vulnerable, to act with honor. If she says she didn't resist, I believe her, and so should you." The prosecutor objected, but the judge overruled. The witness's character testimony is relevant, given the defense's argument. Lisa turned to the jury. "You've heard from experts, from witnesses, from those who know Miss Carter best. The evidence is clear. Officer Keller's story does not hold up." The judge called for a recess. The gallery buzzed with excitement. Reporters rushed to file updates, and social media exploded with support for Maya. But the mystery deepened. During the break, Lisa received an anonymous tip there were other complaints against Officer Keller, buried in internal affairs files. Lisa rushed to file a motion to unseal the records. Meanwhile, Maya sat in a quiet room, her hands trembling. She thought of her SEAL training, of the missions where everything depended on staying calm under pressure. She remembered the friends she'd lost, the promises she'd made to always stand up for what was right. Lisa returned, her eyes shining. The judge granted our motion. We'll have access to Keller's internal affairs file this afternoon. Maya nodded, hope flickering in her chest. Thank you, Lisa, for believing in me. Lisa smiled. You're the bravest person I know. We're going to win this. As court resumed, the judge announced the decision. The defense will be allowed to introduce evidence from Officer Keller's internal affairs file. The prosecutor objected, but the judge was firm. The truth must come out. The gallery erupted in whispers. The jury leaned forward, sensing that the case was about to take a dramatic turn. And as Lisa prepared to reveal the secrets hidden in Keller's past, Maya sat tall, her seal pin gleaming, her resolve unbreakable. The truth was coming, and nothing would ever be the same. The courtroom was electric with anticipation as Lisa Tran approached the bench, a thick folder in her hands. The judge nodded for her to proceed. Your Honor, the defense would like to enter into evidence the internal affairs file of Officer Brian Keller. The prosecutor objected, but the judge overruled. The file is relevant to the officer's credibility. Proceed. Lisa handed copies to the judge, the prosecutor, and the jury. She began to read aloud, her voice steady and clear. Over the past 5 years, Officer Keller has been the subject of multiple complaints, excessive force, false statements, and racial profiling. In each case, the complaints were dismissed for lack of evidence, but the pattern is clear. She turned to the jury. You've seen the footage. You've heard the testimony. Now you see the history. Keller's face drained of color. He shifted in his seat, his hands trembling. Lisa continued. One complaint, filed by a fellow officer, states that Officer Keller has a habit of turning off his body camera during confrontations. Another, from a community member, describes an incident almost identical to Ms. Cardazan, arrest without cause, excessive force, and a report that didn't match the facts. The jury murmured, some shaking their heads in disbelief. Lisa called a final witness, Officer James Rodriguez, a former partner of Keller's. Rodriguez took the stand, his expression serious. I worked with Brian for 2 years. He was a good cop, but he cut corners. He didn't like being questioned. I saw him turn off his camera more than once. Primera reported it, but nothing happened. The prosecutor tried to discredit Rodriguez, but the damage was done. The jury had seen enough. Lisa turned to Maya. Miss Carter, would you like to make a statement? Maya stood, her voice steady. I served my country as a Navy SEAL. I've faced danger. I've made mistakes, but I've always tried to do what's right. I didn't resist arrest. I tried to help someone in need. I ask you to look at the evidence, to listen to the truth, and to do what's right. The judge called for closing arguments. The prosecutor, rattled, tried to paint Maya as a troublemaker, but his words rang hollow. Lisa's closing was powerful, reminding the jury of Maya's service, her courage, and the evidence that had come to light. As the jury retired to deliberate, the courtroom buzzed with tension. Reporters rushed to file updates. Activists gathered outside, and Maya sat quietly, her hands folded, her seal pin gleaming. Keller sat alone, his head in his hands, the weight of his actions finally settling on his shoulders. The judge announced that the jury would return the next morning. Maya left the courthouse surrounded by supporters, her lawyer at her side. That night, the city was alive with hope and fear. Protesters marched, demanding justice. Veterans and service members posted messages of support for Maya. The police department announced an internal review of Keller's cases. Maya sat in her small apartment, surrounded by friends and family. She thought of her SEAL training, of the battles she'd fought, of the friends she'd lost. She thought of the woman she'd tried to help, of the truth she'd fought to reveal. She knew the verdict would change her life forever, but she also knew that, whatever happened, she had stood up for what was right. And as dawn broke over the city, Maya prepared to face her fate with courage, dignity, and hope. The morning of the verdict dawned gray and heavy, the city's tension mirrored in the sky. Maya barely slept, her mind replaying every moment of the trial, every question, every look from the jury. She dressed carefully, pinning her seal insignia to her lapel, a quiet reminder of who she was and what she had survived. Outside the courthouse, the crowd had grown. Protesters held signs in support of Maya, others defending the police. News vans lined the street, their cameras trained on the courthouse steps. Inside, the air was thick with anticipation and fear. Maya's family and friends gathered around her, offering hugs and quiet words of encouragement. Lisa Tran squeezed her hand. No matter what happens, you stood up for the truth. That's what matters. Maya nodded, her face calm but her heart pounding. She thought of her SEAL teammates, of the missions where everything depended on courage and trust. She thought of the woman she'd tried to help, of the people who had believed in her, and of those who never would. The courtroom filled quickly. The judge entered, her face grave. The jury filed in, their expressions unreadable. The foreman stood, holding the verdict slip. The judge asked, "Has the jury reached a verdict?" "We have, Your Honor." Maya held her breath as the foreman read the verdict. On the charge of resisting arrest, we find the defendant, Maya Carter, not guilty. A collective gasp swept through the courtroom. Maya's family burst into tears, hugging her tightly. Lisa smiled, relief and pride in her eyes, but the foreman wasn't finished. On the charge of assaulting an officer, we find the defendant, not guilty. The gallery erupted some cheering, others shouting in anger. The judge banged her gavel, calling for order. Maya sat in stunned silence, tears streaming down her face. She had won. The truth had prevailed, but the victory was bittersweet. As the judge dismissed the jury, the prosecutor announced that Officer Keller would be investigated for perjury and misconduct. The police department released a statement promising reforms and a review of all Keller's past cases. Outside, the crowd surged around Maya, reporters shouting questions, supporters cheering. Maya spoke briefly, her voice steady. "I'm grateful for justice. I hope this is the beginning of real change. No one should be judged by the color of their skin or the uniform they wear. We all deserve respect, dignity, and the truth." But as the adrenaline faded, Maya felt the weight of the ordeal settle on her shoulders. She was free, but she was also exhausted, wounded by the fight, and uncertain about what came next. That night, Maya sat alone in her apartment. The city's noise, a distant hum. She thought of her SEAL training, of the battles she'd fought, of the friends she'd lost. She wondered if she would ever truly belong, if the world would ever see her for who she was. A knock at the door startled her. It was Lisa, holding a note from one of the jurors. It read, "Thank you for your courage. You changed my mind. You've changed my life." Maya smiled through her tears, hope flickering in her heart. She knew the fight wasn't over. There would be more battles, more injustice, more pain. But she also knew that she was not alone. And as she drifted off to sleep, Maya dreamed not of war, but of peace, of a world where truth mattered, where courage was enough, and where everyone had a chance to be heard. The days after the verdict were a whirlwind for Maya. The city was still buzzing, some celebrating, some protesting, all grappling with the meaning of what had happened in that courtroom. Maya's name was on every news channel, her face on every social feed. She received hundreds of messages, some hateful, but most full of gratitude, hope, and admiration. Lisa Tran, ever the strategist, encouraged Maya to use her voice. "You have a platform now. People are listening. You can help others who've been silenced." Maya hesitated. She was tired, her spirit bruised by the ordeal. But she remembered the juror's note, the woman she'd tried to help, and the countless people who had reached out to say, "You gave me hope." She agreed to a televised interview, sitting across from the anchor. Maya spoke quietly but with conviction. "I didn't want to be a symbol. I just wanted to do what was right. I served my country because I believe in justice, in courage, in standing up for those who can't stand up for themselves. I hope my story reminds people that we all have a duty to speak the truth, even when it's hard." The interview went viral. Maya was invited to speak at universities, community centers, and police reform panels. She met with other veterans, with activists, with young women who saw in her a reflection of their own struggles. Meanwhile, Lisa continued her work, helping other clients who had been wronged by the system. She and Maya became close friends, their bond forged in the fire of the trial. Officer Keller's investigation deepened, more victims came forward, and the department announced sweeping reforms. New body camera policies, anti-bias training, and a review of all use of force incidents. The city council invited Maya to join a new oversight committee, ensuring that her voice and the voices of others like her would be heard. Maya's SEAL teammates reached out, offering support and encouragement. Some visited her in the city, sharing stories, laughter, and the comfort of old friendships. They reminded her that she was never alone, that her courage had always inspired those around her. Marcus Hill, her former teammate who had testified at the trial, called one evening. "You did it, Maya. You changed things. I'm proud of you." Maya smiled, her heart full. "I couldn't have done it without you, Marcus, or without Lisa, or without everyone who believed in me." She began to heal. The nightmares faded, replaced by dreams of hope and possibility. She started running again, training with local veterans, mentoring young women who wanted to serve. One day Maya received a letter from Jasmine Lee, the woman she had tried to help the night of her arrest. Jasmine wrote, "You saved me. You saved yourself, and you saved so many others. Thank you for your courage." Maya wept as she read the letter, the weight of the past finally lifting. She knew there would always be challenges, always be injustice, always be those who doubted her. But she also knew that she had the strength to keep climbing, to keep fighting, to keep believing in a better world. And as she stood in the steps of City Hall, surrounded by friends, family, and supporters, Maya realized that her journey was far from over. But for the first time in a long time, she was ready for whatever came next. The city's annual Unity Day arrived, a celebration of diversity, service, and community healing. Maya was invited as the keynote speaker. The event was held in the city's largest park, with banners waving, food trucks lining the streets, and families gathered to honor those who had made a difference. Maya stood backstage, her heart pounding. She looked out at the crowd, thousands of faces, some are familiar, some strangers, all waiting to hear her story. Lisa stood beside her, squeezing her hand. "You're ready, Maya. You've always been ready." As Maya took the stage, the crowd erupted in applause. She wore her Navy SEAL pin, her posture straight, her eyes shining with determination. She began quietly, her voice carrying across the park. "I never wanted to be a symbol. I just wanted to do what was right. I wanted to help someone in need, to stand up for the truth, to serve my community as I served my country." She spoke of her childhood, her mother's sacrifices, her journey through the Navy, and the challenges she faced as a black woman in a world that often doubted her. She spoke of the night she was arrested, the pain of being silenced, and the courage it took to fight back. "I was mocked, doubted, and nearly broken. But I was never alone. My family, my friends, my SEAL teammates, and so many of you stood by me. You believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself." She paused, her voice trembling with emotion. Justice isn't just a word. It's a promise we make to each other. It's the courage to speak up, the strength to listen, and the willingness to change. The crowd was silent, many wiping away tears. Maya continued, "I forgive those who wronged me, not because it was easy, but because I refused to let hate win. I choose hopen. I choose love. I choose to keep climbing, to keep fighting, to keep believing in a better world." She finished with a call to action. If you see injustice, speak up. If you see someone in need, help them. If you feel alone, reach out. We are stronger together. We are the change we seek. The crowd erupted in applause, some people standing, others cheering, many hugging their loved ones. After the speech, Maya was surrounded by supporters, young women who saw her as a role model, veterans who thanked her for her service, activists who wanted to work with her. Jasmine Lee found her in the crowd, hugging her tightly. "You saved me, Maya. You saved all of us." Officer Keller's fate was sealed. He was convicted of perjury and misconduct, stripped of his badge, and sentenced to community service. The police department implemented new reforms, and the city council passed legislation to ensure greater accountability and transparency. Maya's life changed, but she remained humble. She continued to mentor young people, serve on the oversight committee, and speak at events across the country. She started a foundation to support women and minorities in law enforcement and the military, determined to make a lasting impact. Lisa became a partner at her law firm. Her reputation as a champion for justice cemented. She and Maya remained close friends, their bond unbreakable. Maya's SEAL teammates visited often, their camaraderie a source of strength and joy. Marcus Hill, now a national advocate for veterans, worked with Maya to create programs for returning service members. The city was transformed. Protests gave way to community forums, anger to understanding, division to unity. The mural of Maya in her SEAL uniform, painted on the side of City Hall, became a symbol of hope and resilience. But for Maya, the greatest reward was the quiet moments running in the park, sharing meals with friends, hearing a child say, "I want to be like you when I grow up." She knew the journey wasn't over. There would always be more to do, more lives to touch, more battles to fight. But as she watched the sun set over the city, Maya felt a deep sense of peace. She had climbed the mountain. She had found her voice, and she was ready for whatever came next. The months after Unity Day brought a new chapter for Maya, her family, and the city. The story of her trial, her courage, and her victory became a touchstone for conversations about justice, race, and reform, not just locally, but across the country. Maya's foundation grew, offering scholarships, mentorship, and legal support to women and minorities pursuing careers in law enforcement and the military. Maya's life was busy, but she found time for herself and her loved ones. She reconnected with her mother, who had watched the trial with pride and worry. They spent long afternoons together, talking about the past, the future, and the legacy Maya was building. Maya's SEAL teammates visited often, their laughter and stories a balm for old wounds. Lisa Tran, now a partner at her firm, continued to fight for justice. She and Maya worked together on several high-profile cases. Their partnership, a model of what could happen when women stood together. Lisa's reputation soared, and she was invited to speak at conferences and law schools, inspiring a new generation of advocates. Marcus Hill and Maya launched a national campaign for veterans' mental health, using their platform to push for better care, more resources, and an end to the stigma that kept so many silent. Their work led to new legislation, increased funding, and a network of support groups across the country. The city itself changed. The police department, under new leadership, implemented reforms that became a model for others. Officers received training in de-escalation, anti-bias, and community engagement. The Oversight Committee, with Maya as a key member, reviewed cases, listened to complaints, and ensured accountability. The mural of Maya in her SEAL uniform became a gathering place for rallies, vigils, and celebrations. School children visited on field trips, learning about her story and the importance of standing up for what's right. But Maya's journey was not without challenges. She still faced criticism, threats, and moments of doubt. Some people refused to believe her, clinging to old prejudices. There were days when the weight of expectation felt crushing, when the memories of the trial and her time in the SEALs haunted her dreams. Yet, Maya pressed on. She found strength in her community, in her friends, in the people she had helped. She ran in the park every morning, her mind clear, her body strong. She mentored young women, spoke at schools, and volunteered at shelters. One evening, as Maya walked home from a community meeting, she heard a commotion in a nearby alley. Without hesitation, she ran toward the sound, finding a teenager being harassed by a group of older boys. Maya intervened, her presence and calm authority enough to send the bullies running. She knelt beside the boy, checking for injuries. "Are you okay?" He nodded, tears in his eyes. "Thank you. I didn't know what to do." Maya smiled, her voice gentle. "You're not alone. Remember that." The boy looked up at her, recognition dawning. "You're Maya Carter. You're the Navy SEAL." Maya nodded, helping him to his feet. "I am, and you're going to be okay." Word of the incident spread quickly, adding another chapter to Maya's legend. The city honored her again, this time for her bravery off the battlefield, for her willingness to help anyone in need. As the anniversary of her trial approached, Maya reflected on all that had changed. She had gone from defendant to advocate, from symbol to leader, from survivor to hero. But she knew her work was not done. There were still battles to fight, still lives to touch, still hope to give. And as she stood before the mural, the city lights shining around her, Maya made a promise to herself, to her community, to everyone who had ever felt silenced or alone. She would keep climbing. She would keep fighting. She would keep believing in a better world. The second anniversary of Maya's trial was marked by a citywide celebration. The park was filled with music, food, and laughter. The mural of Maya in her SEAL uniform was freshly painted, its colors brighter than ever. People from all walks of life gathered to honor her journey and the changes she had inspired. Maya stood on the stage, looking out at the crowd. Her mother, Lisa, Marcus, her SEAL teammates, the young people she mentored, and countless others whose lives she had touched. She felt a wave of gratitude, pride, and humility. She spoke from the heart, her voice strong and clear. 2 years ago, I sat in a courtroom, afraid and uncertain. I was judged not for what I had done, but for who I was. But I was not alone. My family, my friends, my community stood by me. Together, we fought for the truth. Together, we changed our city. She paused, her eyes shining. I am not a hero. I am a daughter, a friend, a teammate, a neighbor. I am one of you, and together, we are stronger than hate, stronger than fear, stronger than any lie. The crowd erupted in applause, some people wiping away tears, others hugging their loved ones. Maya continued, there is still work to do. There are still voices to be heard, lives to be saved, justice to be won. But I believe in us. I believe in the power of truth, of courage, of love. If you see injustice, speak up. If you see someone in need, help them. If you feel alone, reach out. We are the change we seek. After the speech, Maya was surrounded by supporters. Children asked for her autograph, veterans saluted, and families thanked her for giving them hope. Lisa and Marcus hugged her, their pride and love unmistakable. The city council presented Maya with a special award for her service and leadership. The police chief, now a champion of reform, thanked her for holding the department accountable and for helping to build a bridge between law enforcement and the community. As the sun set, Maya walked through the park, the mural glowing in the golden light. She thought of all she had endured, the pain, the fear, the doubt, and all she had gained. Friendship, purpose, and a sense of belonging. She knew there would always be challenges, always be those who doubted or opposed her, but she also knew that she was not alone. She had a community behind her, a city that believed in her, and a future filled with hope. Maya looked up at the stars, her heart full. She whispered a silent promise to herself, to her city, to everyone who had ever felt silenced or afraid. I will keep fighting. I will keep climbing. I will keep believing. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And remember, justice is not a destination, but a journey. It is built every day by people like you people who refuse to give up, who choose hope over fear, and who believe that together we can change the world. Because in the end, the greatest strength is not in the battles we win, but in the love and courage we share.